to get over with a long pass. I think that was part of the game plan that came to fruition there for the Panthers. And I don't think that was given enough credit by the commentators during the game. But yeah, well done to the Panthers in securing their title. It's their first for a while. 2003 rings a bell as the last time they won it. So well done to them, and shame for the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, indeed. Look forward to, hopefully we'll see the Panthers coming over to play whoever wins on Saturday in the World Club Challenge.
Or, you may be taking that step of going down there like other champion sides have chosen to do in the past.
Who knows? I wouldn't mind going to Australia if they'll let anybody
in. Just pretend you're a wife or girlfriend of the Ashes side. Okay, that is all the results from the last week covered off. David, we're now going to move on to make our guesses for the grand final and the other games that culminate the season in the Northern Hemisphere this coming weekend. Okie dokes. 6 o'clock on Saturday on Sky Sports if you can't make it, but at Old Trafford in Manchester if you can make it, is the Super League Grand Final. Catalans, first place league leaders Catalans versus second place league runners-up St Helens to decide who will be the 2021 Super League champions. Will it be a new name on the trophy, or will it be a third title in a row for St Helens? Before we give our predictions, shall we go through the poll result, the SLP poll that we put up this week to get people's guesses? Basically, we gave 4 options. Catalans by loads, Catalans in a close game. There's a sniff of Magic Weekend in that line, isn't there? Saints in a close game, or Saints by loads. And the results were 5% of people thought Catalans would win by a wide margin. 49% of people thought Catalans would win, but by a close margin. 34% of people thought Saints would win, but by a close margin. 12% thought Saints would win by a wide margin. So those who did think Saints would win were more likely to think of it as being a bigger win than those who thought Catalans would win. But ultimately, 54% thought Catalans would win and 46% thought St Helens would win.
They should all get to the bookies as fast as they possibly can to check their odds out if that's what they think.
I'm not disputing that there might be a few what people want.
Set to 5 to 1 at the bookies. Yeah. So they definitely ought to get down there and put their hard-earned where their predictions are.
Certainly, people have gone with what they want, maybe over what they expect in that. But you can't. Personally, I think it is closer than those odds suggest. Given that Catalans have beaten Saints twice this season when they played.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, Mark. I never bet, but I thought it would be worth checking out the odds. And I think if you really do think Catalan are going to win or win by loads, you ought to get down and put your money where you think it's going to be, because the odds, I think you can get nearly 3 to 1 on Catalan. So I think it is going to be a very close game. We played them 3 times this year. We probably ought to won all 3, but when they've had full side out, they've beaten us twice. When they've had a weak side out, we beat them. So, going on that form line, we ought to lose this weekend.
Well, there's two games to talk about, isn't there? The third game was an irrelevance, let's be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it the third?
Well, the second game of the 3.
Yeah, the second game. Yeah, second game of the 3. They just played a weak side, so that's irrelevant. The game away in Catalan, we had a shocking game, and we bombed 2 or 3 chances, and I thought we ought to have won that game, but we didn't. And I thought we clearly ought to have won at bloody Magic Weekend, and we didn't. So
you thought you did. You'd gone.
Yeah, well, I had. Well, I tell you what, I still think my hamburger was a better bet than that last 5 minutes, mate. I know you enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have done. So
best 5 minutes of my season.
Yeah, I know it was, which says a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm not disputing that, mate. Not at all.
It was the best hamburger of my season, if that's it. Which was some consolation, I can tell you. So I think it will be an incredibly tight game. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Catalan won. Be extremely disappointed, but I wouldn't be surprised if Catalan won. But equally, I wouldn't be surprised if Saints won. And if I was a betting man, and I'm not, I'd have my money on the boys in the red V. Although we won't be wearing a red V. We're likely to be in our second kit, I think.
As long as they don't force Catalans to wear that grey kit they wore at Magic Weekend.
Which was grim, wasn't it? I think that they're a home team, I think, so they should have their home strip on. I think we'll be in our away blue nightmare kit.
Which is all dark, so it can that can operate as the two options, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what it'll be. I think that's what we'll be wearing. So if I'm going to tip, I'm going to say Saints by 8.
Saints by 8. I think there's some things that can be instructive here. Sometimes the past can be instructive, can't it? The last time these two sides played in, I suppose Magic Weekend was a big game because the League Leaders Shield was dependent upon it, and Catalans showed that they could come through that. But it was an unusual game in some ways, wasn't it? That size of comeback in that short space of time, golden point period, where Saints thought, I know what we can do to stop them beating us. Let's try and kill the man who's absolutely destroyed us for the last 10 minutes. And it still didn't work. But the last time these two sides played a big game before that, correct me if I'm wrong, was the 2018 Challenge Cup semi-final, when Catalans came with a game plan that absolutely controlled, at that time, not just Alex Walmsley, but Luke Thompson as well, in that match, and then had enough to break down the St Helens defence after not letting Saints get any sort of impetus and momentum through the middle of that match. That was, a Steve McNamara side with a not exactly the same pack as now, but some similar players in it. So there's something instructive in that, I think. However, there's also something instructive in, after that game against Catalans at the Magic Weekend, where St Helens were particularly damaged was in the centre channels. And you look back to last week, and destructive centre Harry Newman and someone who normally makes a lot of meters somehow, Tom Briscoe, both were very much contained by that St Helens defence in that match. Whether that was Leeds not really executing a good game plan or not, maybe is one thing, because Leeds didn't have the players that can swing those wide passes accurately, quickly, on time, on the money, that Catalans have, especially if Tompkins is fit, in that Drinkwater, Maloney, Tompkins axis. So that's where it's going to be won and lost for me in this match, is Catalans, can they control Alex Walmsley? I think they can restrict him, but I don't know whether you can stop him being a factor, because it's Alex Walmsley. And then on the flip side, can Saints cope with Catalans' power out wide with their wide passing game that gets them into that position quicker and more accurately than any other side in the competition gets themselves into that position? They're the two key factors for me in this match.
I differ slightly with you on that. I think the key factor for me in this game is how well Saints do at executing the normal game plan of keeping Catalan away from the line.
Oh, we're gonna
You
be
know,
sleeping, aren't we, by half time?
what keeps me awake at night thinking about this game is
It won't keep you awake if you watch your game plan.
yeah, thank you. Is watching work for Penrith. Is having Tompkins and or Arthur Morg's footwork within 10 yards of the line. That's where I think the threat is. It's having those unpredictable sidestepping, making you miss with the line in sight players. Inside the red zone is what would worry me. I'm not too worried about the centres, to be honest. I'm much more worried about having those guys near our line. So I think the trick for Saints in this one is to play our game plan very well, which at Magic we pretty much did right until we stopped fucking playing. Keep them away from the line. They can't score, and then we'll hopefully do enough to get our points on the board. That for me is where the game will be won and lost. Can we play our normal game plan?
I think unlike some other teams that you play that game plan against, one thing Catalans won't be forced into doing, I don't believe, is that sort of panicked one-up down the middle stuff that both Warrington and Leeds we've seen in recent games against St Helens kind of like find themselves falling into the trap of. I think Catalans will still maintain their width, and that's the thing that Saints will have to contend with, defending the width as well as putting that pressure on around the middle of the field. So we'll see. You made an interesting point though when you were talking about footwork and or Morg. Well, if Morg isn't starting at fullback because Tompkins is playing, Morg's coming off the bench. The other likelihood is Wellesby's coming off the bench. So in both teams there, in a close game, you've got young, exciting, talented game changers that could come into the fray late on in play and do something different. And we saw Morg do it at Magic Weekend. We've seen Wellesby do it, obviously, in the finish to last year's grand final, but he started that game. But we've seen Wellesby do it as well. That's another little nuance to this game that adds to the excitement level for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think both sides have got really exciting players. Both sides are well coached. Both sides are very fit and are very quick and good defenders. Both sides have got some pretty tough guys playing in their packs and out wide. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Actually, I think it's a final the season deserves. I think these two teams have been the best two teams in the league this year.
Absolutely.
And I hope it's a really, really good game. Obviously, I'd really like to smash them 40-0, but that won't happen. So I hope it's a really, really good game and, that we just come out on top. But I could quite understand why everybody else would want us to lose.
I think you do edge the fitness, but I think they have a bench that might give more impact. So it's such a tough call. You've gone Saints by 8. I'm going to go Catalans by 7.
There we go. That'll be a good game either way.
Some good games in store on Sunday as well. I've yet to decide for certain whether I'm going to the women's grand final or not. Within me, I want to go, but then I'm also aware that I'll be drinking quite a bit on Saturday and have to drive over to Leeds. So I already feel like the Shield final between Featherstone and Huddersfield at 12 o'clock kickoff is possibly beyond me in all circumstances. But that's there as a...
I'm dragging myself downstairs with a bacon sandwich to watch this, Mark. That's my prediction. I won't be dragging myself over to Leeds, I'm afraid. I'll still be hungover.
So that Featherstone Huddersfield game at 12 o'clock, that'll be your sort of entree. The main course is, you talk about the grand final we deserve. St Helens versus Leeds is probably the women's grand final that we've been waiting for since, in in 2019,